Hey everybody, this is Andy from Tennis Euphoria, and this video is the next in our series around racket terminology and specs. Today we're going to talk about string patterns. If you're new to this channel, it's all about racket reviews, racket terminology and specs, and also fitness around tennis, all with the goal of helping you find that euphoric moment when you're on court and everything is working well and you have the right racket for you. So if that sounds like something that might be of interest, like and subscribe for future videos. But let's get into string patterns now. So string patterns will be described by two numbers, the most common of which out there are 16 by 19 and 18 by 20. Now there are variations to that, 16 by 20 and also 18 by 19 are quite popular. But what do those numbers refer to? Well, the first number refers to the main strings, the up and down strings, and the second number refers to the crosses, which are the side to side strings. There are two categories of string patterns, dense and open, and if we talk about dense first of all, then 1820 would be a good example of that. That string patterns will have lots of strings within it, so the more strings within the racket, the denser the racket. That will have less spacing between the strings, and it will mean that more strings are biting the ball on impact, which should give more touch, more precision and more immediate feedback on the ball. So players who value control, touch and precision will typically go for that string pattern, a dense string pattern. Open string patterns, on the other hand, have less strings in the racket and bigger spacing between them. So there's more of a gap, less strings will hit the ball on impact, and there'll be a bigger space between those strings grabbing the ball. It means that the ball repulses from the racket with more elevation. It also encourages more revolutions on the ball, and it also means you get a higher launch angle, delivering potentially more spin and more power. Now the downside to an open string pattern potentially could be that less of the strings are touching the ball each time, so you get less durability next to denser string patterns. Furthermore, because of that power element and the diametrically opposed characteristics within rackets, you in theory will get less control and less precision. So perhaps not surprisingly then, those denser patterns tend to be quite popular with advanced players who are looking for precision and touch and play with great variety within their game. And that string pattern has had a bit of a resurgence over the last couple of years with some excellent rackets in that space. Ones that spring to mind would be the Tecnifibre TF40, also the new Yonex V-Core Pro 97 HD, which stands for high density, dense pattern in strings, and also one of my favourite rackets, the Wilson Ultra Tour. However, one string pattern to really consider, which is less commonly used, is the 18-19 pattern. Now I really like this pattern. I'm someone who does value touch and precision, but I also feel with the modern game, and since I've been playing again, I need a little bit more spin and I need a little bit more power now that I'm a little bit older. So I use the Tecnifibre 305 XTC, which has that 18-19 string pattern. It's close to an 18-20, but it gives me a little bit more power, a little bit more spin, and that racket has amazing plow through, which I just really value on the court as well. Now obviously Medvedev is using that and I really like his game, but it might surprise you that also Novak Djokovic has moved to that string pattern over the recent years. So clearly he's enjoying those benefits as well with regards to that dense pattern giving control, precision, but also that little bit of spin and power as well. The most popular string pattern is 16 by 19, and I guess this makes a lot of sense. 16 by 19 will give you a little bit of everything. You can generate good spin, should be able to generate good power, and it's relatively precise next to more open patterns, but more open patterns are a little bit rare today. Another pattern not to underestimate and experiment with in my view is the 16 by 20 pattern. Now that sits somewhere in between that 16-19 and that 18-19 pattern. For me, it still delivers quite a lot of spin and power, but it does give you that little bit more control, which again I've really valued. And I've had quite a lot of success with that string pattern over the last couple of years. A good example of a current racket with that pattern would be the Yonex V-Core 9.5. But also there is a gem of a racket out there, which is the Babolat Pure Aero VS. Now that is not like a Pure Aero. My version was customized. I changed the paint job and I added some weight because in stock form it's very, very light. But I love the whippy nature of that racket and the control that it gave me. It is a hybrid. It kind of offers you the best of both worlds. Now there is a very exciting new release out now, which is the new version of the Babolat Pure Aero VS. That to me looks very similar to the Pure Drive VS, which was a good racket. To my mind, it just lacked a little bit of weight and I didn't really like that string pattern in it. So the Babolat Pure Aero VS that's just been released, I think could be a fantastic racket if you're looking for power spin, but also looking to rein that in for a little bit more of control. Now manufacturers play around with these patterns a little bit. Two manufacturers that I'd give some kudos to, number one would be Wilson in this space. So back in 2013 they released the Wilson Steam 99S and that took spin off the charts at the time. I've got hold of a version of that racket and it has immense spin potential, relatively big head size at 99 square inches, 16 by 15 string pattern, really open, and they also, don't know whether you can see here, but seem to be the first who experimented with kind of fins around the racket, which improved aerodynamics and maneuverability. Wilson also currently have S versions of some of their lines available. I've seen it in the Burn previously. Currently it's in the Wilson Blade, and that has an 18 by 16 string pattern. So if you're looking for blade characteristics, but perhaps you are looking for a little bit more power and spin, then that Wilson Blade S version with that 18-16 pattern could be something for you. But bigger kudos has to go to Prince in this space. I love Prince as a manufacturer. They will try things out and they actually make fantastic rackets. It's a shame that they don't get more coverage. Two rackets that I would give a shout out to in this space would be the Prince Phantom 100. This also has a 16 by 18 string pattern, so wide spacing in the strings, and with that 100 square inch head it delivers loads of spin potential. A fantastic racket. And also you of course have the Prince 93P. Now this has a 14 by 18 string pattern and I think this racket is awesome. It delivers best of both worlds and really does sit in the middle. Now Prince do make of course the 93P with the 18-20 string pattern, really dense, less spacing. Unfortunately, I think that's a step too far in today's marketplace. I mean, it's a lovely racket loaded with control and a lovely feel to it, but it is heavy, it is very dense, it doesn't offer much power or spin. And next to that 93P with the 14-18, I think that's really clever. It gives the best of both worlds. It is mid-size, very precise. It's heavy, so it's stable, but it also gives you a bit of spin and power that can make it current in today's market. In summary then, your racket is always going to be a personal thing, and it's important to just test and find the racket that is right for you. It is important though, I think, to look at the different variables and understand the terminology. I hope this has been helpful in terms of string patterns, and it might have given you some ideas as to what you might want to playtest or use in the future. We can't get on court right now to playtest rackets, but I have a number of rackets that I'm going to review as soon as I can. I also own pretty much every racket ever manufactured over the last few years, so if there's anything you'd like me to review, please mention that in the comments. And I'll be back with more racket terminology and spec videos as well as fitness videos, and we've been recording a lot of those over the last few weeks during lockdown, so I'll see you soon.